What comes to mind when you think of some of the best sequels of all time? I'm sure most of you would say The Empire Strikes Back, The Godfather Part 2, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, or even Paddington 2.
Paddington 2 is incredible.
Told you.
Sometimes these sequels have huge production issues, run into delays, and barely make it to the finish line. I'm looking at you, No Time to Die.
Okay.
Some films lose a good chunk of their progress and have to almost start over. Toy Story 2, anyone?
Okay, I'm officially freaked out now.
Well, I've got one better for you. Ever heard of Tremors 2 Aftershock? You know, that sequel to Tremors, which had the unfortunate demise of being released direct to video. Yep, I said that right, direct to video release. Have you ever wondered why the film's distributor, Universal, didn't push for a wide release into theaters?
Look. No way. Not for any amount of money.
Well, let's strap in and pop open a cold one as we find out WTF happened to Tremors 2. Before we can begin talking about the sequel, we need to talk about the first film, aptly named Tremors.
What? Why do you think I drove all this way?
It was released on January 19th, 1990, and was well received by both critics and audiences alike. Over the years, it has gained a cult following. The premise revolves around two repairmen, Val McKee, played by Kevin Bacon, and Earl Bassett, played by Fred Ward. They are both tired of their lives in a small town located in Nevada and decide to leave. On their way out, they stumble upon a series of mysterious deaths and link up with a concerned seismologist, played by Finn Carter, as well as an eccentric survivalist couple, Bert and Heather Gummer, who are played by Michael Gross and Reba McEntire. They all discover some unnatural readings under the ground. These readings turn out to be giant worm-like monsters who are hungry for humans. Since these worms don't have an actual name, our ragtag group of heroes come up with the term graboids. We then see the group take down the worms and save the town. Everyone ends up happy and we roll credits. Upon release, the film went from having an R to PG rating. This made the screenwriters happy because Tremors would appeal to a more family-friendly audience. You know, take your kids to watch worms pop out of the ground and eat people. The next perfect family film. Its budget was $10 million and went on to gross over $16 million at the box office. It was a small hit, but not as big as Universal had hoped for. Once released on home video, it gained more success, and even more people got to enjoy this worm-hunting feel-good film of the year. It has even spawned multiple home video releases, including a great-looking 4K disc from Arrow Video.
Hey, what you gonna do with all your money?
Invest it.
Well, yeah, of course invest it, but
Even at 5%, I'll be doing pretty good.
When time came for a sequel, everyone was on board. Well, almost everyone.
They spotted us! It's coming right toward us!
Well, that's the idea.
Yeah, I know that's the idea. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Now stop! Stop already, will ya?
Tremors 2 Aftershocks started production in 1993 when MCA Universal took interest in the script. Screenwriters Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson, who penned the first film, came back to write the sequel. These two wrote some great 80s films, including Short Circuit 1 and 2, as well as Batteries Not Included. Let's also not forget that they were story consultants on the first Land Before Time and wrote the script for Ghost Dad, which is a film that we'd like to pretend doesn't exist.
Put the bitch on the phone! Put the bitch on the phone!
S.S. Wilson wanted to try his hand at directing Tremors 2. With full approval from the studio, he rolled up his sleeves and manned the helm. The film was going to be shot in Australia with a budget of $17 million, with the proposed idea that Kevin Bacon and Reba McEntire would return to play their beloved characters. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case here.
But how could that be? I was just talking to her.
Reba declined because she was on tour for her music career, and Kevin was very interested in the script, but had to bow out due to prior commitments for Ron Howard's upcoming space epic, Apollo 13.
what did you do? Nothing, I stirred the tanks.
Whoa.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
Fred Ward returned as Earl Bassett, as well as Michael Gross for the role of Bert Gummer, who was the heart and soul of this movie.
Had the bullets custom cast from solid bronze.
Man, Bert, you put a whole new shine on the word overkill.
When you need it and don't have it, You sing a different tune.
We were also introduced to newcomers Grady Hoover, played by Christopher Garten, Dr. Kate Riley, played by Helen Shaver, and Carlos Ortega, played by Marcelo Tubert. Each character plays an essential part in making the story flow, with Grady making the biggest dent and becoming one of the most likable characters in the Tremors series.
These hills are alluvial.
Oh, alluvial. Wait, but that's that little dingleberry in the back of your throat, right?
Unfortunately, Kate isn't written with much depth. Besides being a geologist, she also posed as a Playboy model, which Earl remembers quite well.
This October, 1974.
Yeah, she's there to remind me not to keep chasing after things I'm never gonna get.
October 74?
Shit.
Carlos Ortega is the catalyst to getting the movie going and convinces Earl to come to Mexico and hunt some graboids. The movie picks up sometime after the first Tremors. Earl has invested his money from the previous film in an ostrich ranch, which sounds like a great way to waste your earnings.
Now you and Susie are gonna make me some little birds, or I'm gonna take some barbecue sauce to both of you.
He's approached by Carlos Ortega, who asks him to come and hunt graboids in Mexico. They're destroying his oil field and killing his workers. Before Earl can decline, Carlos's taxi driver, Grady, convinces him that he will be paid handsomely for capture or killing the attacking worms. Earl agrees, and we're off to Mexico. Once there, Earl meets Kate, who's a geologist studying the worms. Earl takes a liking to Grady, and the two go off with some remote-controlled cars that are rigged with explosives. They use these to blow up the worms. After killing off a good amount of graboids, the boys are outnumbered by the increasing amount of worms. Earl enlists the help of Burt Gummer from the previous movie. Burt is all hung up on Heather, who left him, and Earl convinces him to head on down to Mexico. Once there, Burt not only provides all the ammunition they need to outsmart the worms, but he also has a truck rigged with explosives. Can I just say that Burt truly is the best character in this film? He not only has the best lines,
I am completely out of ammo.
but is the most likable overall, and you can't help but root for him.
Oh, I'm just dandy. So what do we do now?
While Burt carries the rest of the film, the boys eventually take notice that the graboids have evolved, but with legs. They are, of course, smaller, deadlier, and blind, and can track your body heat with a special infrared receptor on their head. It almost sounds like John Krasinski took some of those ideas and added to his playbook for A Quiet Place. But anyways, the Graboids 2.0, aka Shriekers, are bipedal-like creatures that are eating up radios, cars, and anything with a heat signature on them, especially people. They destroy almost every mode of transportation and make it increasingly difficult for Earl and Grady to return to base. Eventually, Earl and the gang make it back to the oil facility. Kate explains how the worms are hermaphrodites and replicate fast after eating Bert's frozen food, which he left lying around his truck. They lure all the Shriekers into a building, and Earl throws some explosives at the creatures. This causes the building and everything surrounding it to blow up. Don't worry though, because our characters make it out in the nick of time. During the aftermath, Earl pursues Kate and discusses their future. Grady suggests opening an amusement park, something of a running gag throughout the film. My one question though, is did they ever get their money for killing the Graboids and Shriekers?
You know, Grady, some people think I'm overprepared, paranoid, maybe even a little crazy. But they never met any Precambrian life forms, did they?
The movie was actually filmed in Valencia, California. Because of our biggest stars departing the film before production, MCA Universal cut back on shooting locations as well as the budget. It went from $17 million to a deflated $4 million. Filming took a total of 27 days in early 1994, and honestly, looks pretty great. There were tons of cool added features to this film. First and foremost are the new Graboids. In the first film, the worms were coming from the ground up. No props were needed to show them above ground. That is, until now. The creature design team, Amalgamated Dynamics, was faced with this new challenge of showing the Shriekers walking and running around. The team would create some fantastic prosthetic puppets, including fully articulated puppets, which required 16 puppeteers to operate. In the case of showing a Shrieker blowing up, shot, or dropped, a dummy was used in place. Since some of the practical effects couldn't be shot on camera, like walking, running, or climbing, the post team called up Tippett Studios, yes, Mr. Phil Tippett himself, to create the CGI movement of the creatures. To give the look of the infrared view from the Shrieker's perspective, the actors wore red suits and yellow stockings. The crew shot these scenes in high 8 videotape and were blown up to 35mm film. It would give the shots that grainy feel. The post-production team would then render their faces and bodies into different colors. Hey, it was the 90s. You didn't have free, easy plugins like you do today.
You know, as I lie here, I can't help but comment.
After the film was finished, it was time for the test audiences to view it in all its graboid glory. To Universal's surprise, the test screenings went over unanimously well. They couldn't get enough of Earl's MacGyvering in any tense situation, one in particular involving hanging iron clothes to avoid being detected by shriekers. MCA Universal, shocked beyond all belief, were unsure about how to distribute the film, so they did what any smart company would do and shelved the project for the next 2 years. They deemed a theatrical release to be too expensive and didn't believe in this film appealing to the general public.
You know, she actually blames our problems on the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Well, you did take that kind of hard, Bert.
During this time, the creators would petition that it get a theatrical wide release. MCA Universal finally gave in and set a planned release date for April 9th, 1996, which was exactly 2 years after the film was completed. The only problem was it received a very limited screening in theaters. The studio thought it would be better to distribute this as a direct-to-video release. Both the theatrical and home video release would coincide on the same day, and then on Laserdisc, April 16th. It wouldn't find its high-definition home video release until 2021.
I don't like it, Grady. They're getting smarter, that's what they do. They got some kind of plan going here.
Once everything was said and done, everyone moved on to different projects. Fred Ward had great parts in classic comedies such as Road Trip and Joe Dirt.
Hey, how exactly is a rainbow made? How exactly does the sun set? How exactly does a positrack rear end on a Plymouth work? It just does.
It just does.
Michael Gross went on to reprise his role multiple times, in fact, as Burt Gummer in the other direct-to-home video Tremors sequels. Christopher Garden would appear in some big films such as Flight Plan and Black Swan, while Helen Shaver went on to have roles in some smaller films and even appeared in a true 90s classic, The Craft. S.S. Wilson only ever directed one other movie, Tremors 4, The Legend Begins, and is considered better than Tremors 3, Back to Perfection. That's also the only sequel where Michael Gross didn't return as Bert.
Well, we're sorry, Bert. I mean, they just changed all of a sudden, man.
Both S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock stayed on as a scriptwriting duo and wrote both Tremors 3 and 4, as well as the infamous 90s bomb, Wild Wild West. They have some explaining to do regarding Dr. Lovelace, but that's a story for another time.
Me casa I su casa. Bet come shivu. Let the party begin!
For some of us kids who grew up in the 90s, we would have our luck of seeing some of the Tremors films appear on the Sci-Fi Channel. I can easily say I remember watching this multiple times and having fond memories watching those graboids blow up after digesting the remote-controlled cars. I've always loved the 90s look and feel of it all, especially the CRT TVs that were used to track the graboids. Hell, Earl even has his own arcade game in the beginning.
Oh my God, you got your own one of these. Oh, I bet you made a fortune off this. Quarter.
Well, somebody did. Sure wasn't me.
Watching this now, in its pristine high-def transfer, I'd say the film has never looked better. It has a certain quality of pure popcorn fun that so deserved a theatrical release. I'm going to rate this an 8 out of 10. It still maintains the charm and fun that the first Tremors displayed. It's quick, has a simple enough story to follow, and dives deeper into Graboid's lore. Most importantly, those practical effects and puppets still hold up well. I'd even go as far to say Earl is better here than in the original. He seems more on the ball and ready to take on any challenge thrown at him, whether it's ostriches, people, or shriekers. He's ready.
Now move with me. Move?
It's gonna work, damn it, now move!
If you haven't seen this great follow-up sequel,
I didn't know. How could I have known?
I'd say it's time to find yourself a copy on a streaming service platform. If you want a physical copy with high-definition video and sound, I suggest looking for the Blu-ray. And if you really want to feed your nostalgia craze, look for a VHS tape or laserdisc, if you even have one. Maybe one day, someone crazy enough, hopefully an Alamo Drafthouse, will hold some screenings for this film and will finally get the proper release it so deserves.
Hey, that's right, we didn't die!
Although, we did kind of blow up their refinery.
Hey, that's just part of the job. In fact, we ought to charge them for all those little ones, too.
Oh, yeah.